Hello and welcome to BAYBRAZIL Annual Conference. How are startups in Brazil and Silicon Valley dealing with the current global pandemic? What is this crisis impact on early stage funding and company viability? To answer these questions, we are gathering today a talented group of tech accelerator leaders who are joining us from São Paulo and San Francisco. Before I invite them to join us, I would love to introduce BAYBRAZIL to some of you who are joining us for the first time today. So welcome to our annual conference. I know a lot of you have been to our in-person conference here in the Bay Area. We miss seeing you and networking with you, but at the same time, we are very happy that our conference now is reaching more people and more of you. So this edition is a very special one because the last June marked the 10th anniversary of BAYBRAZIL. To celebrate, we are expanding our annual conference, inviting tech leaders both from Brazil and Silicon Valley to discuss various topics that shaped this past decade and also are going to reshape the next decade. So I want to share my screen with you and show you a little bit about, give you a sense of what is our work, what we've been doing at BAYBRAZIL. So I founded BAYBRAZIL in 2010. At that time, there was a lot of buzz on BRICS. Specialists predicted that Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa were poised to be the world's dominant economies by year 2050. With a rising middle class, Brazil was considered the darling of BRICS. Specialists, right? So, however, what happens in Silicon Valley at that time, no one was talking about Brazil here. There were many groups focused on various countries and gathering their communities, but there was nobody talking about Brazil. So I founded BAYBRAZIL to build the community and connect it with Brazil. One of the instruments we use to bring the community together is events. Events have been instrumental for us. In 2010, not only was no one talking about Brazil here in the San Francisco Bay Area region, but entrepreneurs, engineers, tech leaders didn't know one another. So we started building the community from the ground up, one conversation at a time, one meeting at a time, and one introduction at a time. Today, we are engaging thousands all over the Bay Area and many regions in the US, Brazil, and even Europe. We are a community of over 15,000 people. We've connected in these past years over 100 Brazilian and American small and business-sized companies to promote information exchange. We've organized over 150 private and public meetings to create opportunities for in-depth discussions and exclusive interactions. And we've been fostering entrepreneurship by connecting startups with mentors, investors, tech leaders that will help them to grow or engage with potential partnerships with them. In 2012, we launched BAYBRAZIL annual conference at Stanford University. We gathered entrepreneurs, investors, and private sector leaders to discuss technology, innovation, and the roles of Brazil and the US in the global economy. This edition that you are just joining is our number 9 edition. But we've had gatherings all over the Bay Area. We are also presenting in-depth dialogues, offering tech leaders the opportunity to meet and learn from one another, and also from prominent leaders such as Brian Acton, co-founder of WhatsApp, who was with us in 2015, Mike Krieger, who was with us at Google in 2017. And our latest in-person editions were at LinkedIn in San Francisco and SRI International in Menlo Park. Here are some of the programs that we are building for our partners and tech leaders to get together with their peers and engaging in meaningful dialogues. We also have been interviewing leaders both from Brazil and the US to add information and inspiration to our innovation hub. Nina Silva, for example, is the founder of a Movimento Black Money, which fosters entrepreneurship and education in the Brazilian Black community. And Peter Norvig is a reference AI research director at Google. BAYBRAZIL is proud to partner with key players both in the Silicon Valley region and in Brazil who are committed to strengthening our bilateral hub. BAYBRAZIL's board of directors embody a cross-section of Brazilian American executives living and working in the Bay Area who I have had the pleasure to work with to shape and to grow our organization. So as Brazil gradually plays a bigger role in fostering entrepreneurship, we think this dialogue with Silicon Valley becomes more critical, and BAYBRAZIL's mission has never been more important. So we thank everybody that has been in this journey with us. And now, going back to our discussion today, we are wondering how Brazilian startups are navigating this pandemic. So today I have the pleasure to welcome Angelica Mari. Where's Angelica? Angelica Mari. She's a senior contributor at Forbes. Here she is. Hi, Angelica.
Hi, Margarita. It's great to be here.
Great to see you, Angelica, and leading this discussion. So Angelica Mari is senior contributor at Forbes. She's been covering living and breathing tech innovation. She's a columnist at Forbes Brazil, senior contributor at Forbes.com, and a reporter for Digital Planet, a BBC World Service program. Her work can be seen in various vehicles worldwide, including The Guardian, The Huffington Post, ZDNet, and many others. So our first hour, Angelica will moderate the Brazil-focused dialogue. Then I will lead the conversation with the director of accelerators here in Silicon Valley. And Carol, please bring our speakers, our guest speakers of today. José Tomé, co-founder and CEO of Agtech Garage. Here he is. Maite Lourenço, co-founder of BlackRock Startups, who, by the way, was in our last edition in Menlo Park. Great to see you again. And Rosenildo Ferreira, co-founder of Vale do Dende. Welcome. Pedro Wangertner, CEO and co-founder of ASI. Great seeing you, Pedro. And here, I'll pass the ball to Angelica to lead this discussion. Welcome, all of you. Looking forward to hearing.
Good afternoon, Margarita. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here with you and the Bay Brazil community that is watching this panel with this group of people who are really making the difference here in the innovation and entrepreneurship scene in Brazil. I'll very briefly introduce myself. Margarita already mentioned a few things about me. So I've been covering the technology space for nearly 20 years for the outlets that she mentioned. So BBC, Forbes, ZDNet, and others. For over a decade, I've been a cheerleader of Brazilian tech. So I've been writing and talking about it to an international audience. So telling the world what these entrepreneurs are doing here and also what's been going on in tech in Brazil. So for that reason, I'm particularly happy to be here and to be part of BAYBRAZIL'S anniversary celebrations. I've been a fan of Margarita's work for a long time, and I think she does an absolutely vital job in bridging the Brazilian and Silicon Valley ecosystems and connecting the dots. So well done, Margarita. I think we really need that kind of initiative, and we need to tell the world all the good stuff that we have here. So well done.
Thank you.
So without further ado, let's get straight into the topic of the day, which is scaling through crisis. So what leaders of accelerators and innovation hubs in Brazil are doing to foster the growth of the startups they work with through the current situation. And you're in for a treat because we have the creme de la creme of Brazilian entrepreneurship gathered here today. And I have to say, I feel a little bit nervous to be moderating all these real references in the Brazilian tech startup ecosystem. They have a lot to say, and I hope you enjoy it. So I'll get straight into the conversation here, and I'll start by asking each of our panelists to introduce the accelerator and what they do for those who might not be familiar with what they are doing right now. So starting with Rosenildo from Vale do Dende. Good afternoon, Rosenildo. Welcome. Great to see you.
Oh, thank you very much, Angelica. Hi, guys. First of all, I would like to say that it's a great honor to be part of this event because I can see that we are among the most innovative companies and startups in Brazil. Which of them are doing a terrific job. So talking about myself, my name is, as you have already said, my name is Rosenildo Freira. I'm based in São Paulo, and I'm co-founder of the Vale do Dende accelerator. I'm a little nervous. I prefer to deal with people presently, not via, So let's do that. Okay, so Vale do Dende is part of a huge, ambitious program that had the idea to address for the people in the poor areas of Salvador City. Salvador is the Bahia state capital. Is a very huge, very strong, and a very creative environment. But sorry, you have a lack of opportunity. You have a lack of tools. You have a lack of anything that can develop a good environment for the existing startups. So our job there is promote and to fill the gap between this entrepreneur from the here in Brazil you call periferia, something like inner city in the States. So these guys that are have a university degree and a good idea and the skills to do that, but don't have money, don't have the contacts. We fill these gaps and try to put them in another level, try to help him to give the jump for the next level. We started our business in 2008, and since then you have helped among 100 startups to fill these gaps, and I have some news to share with you later in this event that address what exactly we are doing now to cope with this new challenge. So Vale do Dende is more than accelerator. We look for the people that is behind the business. We look for his healthiness, for his mental healthiness, and for his attitude as an entrepreneur, as a businessman and a businesswoman. That's
excellent. It. Excellent. Okay, that's a great introduction. Vale do Dende does a really great job in supporting all these young entrepreneurs from outside the big hubs of São Paulo and Rio. Very important job. So thank you, Rosenildo, for your introduction. Now I'll ask Maite Lorenzo from Blackrock Startups to give an introduction of what her accelerator does. Hi, Maite, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Margarese and Angelica. For me, it's a very important moment because last year I went to Silicon Valley and met Margarese. Then for me, it's a very important moment here because true congratulations, this moment, 10 years, the BAYBRAZIL is a very important moment too. Thank you very much. Well,
it's important for us. It's even more important for us that you are here and seeing all the progress you've been making, Maite.
Thank you. It's very important for me too. Then, Rosenildo, I am nervous too. Then, tamo junto. As is a great moment to be together. These great professionals. Then for me it's a pleasure to be here. Then I am Maite Lorenzo. I'm a founder and CEO of Blackrock Startups. And I will show you a presentation. For me, it's easy to show how we do. Let me put the presentation. Do you see?
Yes, yeah, we can see it.
Then, context, in Brazil, the Black population is 56% of the population. And when we are movementing in last years 1 trillion reals. Is a great quantity in money. Then, unfortunately, we less 1% of venture capital goes to Black entrepreneurs. But we are 51% micro entrepreneurs in Brazil. This count is no equal. Then we in BlackRocks, we are a hub that connected Black entrepreneurs to capital and opportunities the startups ecosystem in Brazil. We impact more than 50,000 people since 2016. We born in 2016. We have a performance in national, and we have social media more than 15,000 people. For us, is very important because the Black woman is a major in your social media, and we impact more than Black women too. Then we have four activities. We have acceleration program, ideation too, because more people don't know exactly how can start the startups. Mentor program is start the moment we've connected the ecosystem in Brazil with the new entrepreneurs, and Arena BlackRocks is a festival, the technology innovation festival. We had last edition in last month. We had sponsored and partners like Google, ThoughtWorks, IBM. The last events we have Natura and Movely, and now we have BTG. One sponsored the acceleration program. For us, in Arena BlackRocks, we have more than 3,000 subscribed. For us, it's very important because we have organic advising, and for us, it's very important. We have 2,000 connected during 3 days. The first 3 days in the events, and 95% of the speakers are Black. Then representation is very important because the other people wanted to see in other people. Then the Black people can see other people too. We have some wins. We have awards, startups awards, inspiration, and the VGC awards too, because we have a different activity looking the Black population. We don't have only the information or education. We give the protagonization for this population. And the last activity are acceleration program powered by BTG. For us, is a very important moment because we have investment and acceleration together, and we can change this moment because for us is a very important to have money to invest the entrepreneurs and education between the acceleration program. Then I finish my presentation then.
That's great. Thank you so much, Maite. A very important moment, as you say, indeed, to get all of that visibility for Black entrepreneurs, and particularly founders leading businesses based on technology. So well done, and it's a great moment for you, and really happy to see you thrive. So now I will ask José Tomé from Agtech Garage. Welcome, Tomé. Could you tell us what your hub does and give us the lowdown of what you're doing up there in Piracicaba? My neighbor, I'm also in Piracicaba, by the way.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. People call me Tomé. I'm one of the co-founders of Agtech Garage and now the CEO. I'm a chemical engineer, and I have been working with open innovations in ag sector since 2011. My first startup was a digital open innovation platform It was tough time. Nobody liked to talk about open innovation in ag at that time. And in 2013, we started a co-working space. It was the first one specialized in ag community. Also, tough time. Nobody knows what is co-working ag at that time. But in 2016, we started to talk about and think about Agtech Garage as an innovation hub, a multi-stakeholder innovation hub. 6 months talking with a lot of people, corporates to understand what's going on. Then 2017, we launched Agtech Garage as a virtual hub. Just last year, we launched the hub as it is nowadays. And the last year was fantastic. We doubled the number of our partners. Nowadays, more than 30 corporate partners, multinational companies, Cargill, John Deere, Bayer, and we have almost 500 startups connected in a virtual platform. And we help these companies to be more prepared to innovate fast in an agile model, in an open innovation dynamic. Nowadays is wonderful because the people look and say, okay, you are at the right place at the right time. Yes, I spent 10 years to be in the right time, but very excited about what's going on. Open innovation is growing very fast in Brazil in ag.
Excellent, great introduction. Thank you so much, Tomé. We'll hear a bit more about what Agtech Garage is up to later in our debate. Now, Pedro Weingärtner, CEO at A Startups. Hi, Pedro, good afternoon and welcome. So could you give us a brief introduction of what ACE does for those who are not familiar with your work?
Of course, it's very good to be here. Thank you, Margaris, for the invitation. Thank you, Angelica. It's very good to be among people who are really making an impact in Brazil. So ACE started out as Acceleratech. Acceleratech started in 2012, and our mission is to really help to transform Brazil through innovation. And at the beginning, we started out as accelerator, a regular, pretty standard accelerator model. And from then on, we started investing on the seed stage. Right in the beginning of the crisis, we were developing for about 6 months previous a platform, an online platform, which we called Growthaholics. And we launched it in March, and right now we are accelerating online almost 1.5 thousand startups here in Brazil, trying to help them with a free of charge program with all the perks and mentorship, everything that can help those entrepreneurs go into the next stage. And that's basically what we've been doing on that front. We kept investing, and we're very excited about the quality of the startups that we're seeing right now in Brazil. And we're still very bullish on the sector on the years to come.
Excellent. Great, Pedro. We'll get into a bit more detail on the type of startups that you're investing in, and also your predictions for the months to come. Now, those who are familiar with a little bit of recent history of Brazil will know that we have experience in dealing with crisis and all types of limitations. So we know a thing or two about dealing with difficult situations, but I am interested in hearing what's different this time around with the current COVID-19 crisis. So I would like to hear Rosenildo's thoughts on the challenges in terms of accelerating startups in the current climate, particularly given that you are, of course, outside the financial hubs of São Paulo and Rio.
Okay, so very hard because all the resources in Brazil, you need to understand Brazil on the basis of Rio, São Paulo, and the southwest part. If you are not in southwest part, you don't have more chance to stay to put your job on the screen window on TV, and to be part of the system, you have to come to São Paulo. São Paulo the state accounts for 35% of the total Brazilian GPG. So it's a lot of money, and Rio as well, and Minas Gerais as well. So we are in Salvador, Bahia. What we have done to promote these jobs and these people that are investing there, that are making innovation there, with a lot of media, and telling a story. And when you tell a story, what they have done, what they have accomplished, the people. I'm here in São Paulo exactly to make this bridge between São Paulo and Salvador. So when you tell this story here, people normally say, no, I cannot believe in Salvador innovation. But during this first time, this pandemic time, there's nothing to celebrate, of course. However, we make some, we get some kind of jackpot. I mean, a huge company called Quintes, an IT company, founded and led by Mr. Nana Bafur, asked us to become part of this environment. So now we have for our entrepreneurs the Quintes system to help them. This is the new about Vale do Dende. Now our program is Vale do Dende, which are free of charge for the entrepreneurs, and by Quintes, which means that they will have access to not to São Paulo, Rio, Belo Horizonte, for the entire world. So we are very happy with this partnership because it fills the gap when you have creative, when you have a great disposition to work hard. Okay, it's valid, it's good, it's basic. But when you don't have the resources, the money, and the place to put your products, your growth is limited. Now you feel this gap of now the Vale do Dende to finish that. The word is not enough.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great news. All very fresh, and congratulations on the Quintes partnership.
Thank you very much.
That's really good news. So what about you, Tomé? Not quite the same scale as Rosenildo. You are, after all, in the São Paulo state, but you are in a countryside town that has a tradition for Agtech, this segment. So how has the agri-tech ecosystem felt the coronavirus crisis? Has it been quite the same way as most sectors, such as manufacturing, retail, and all that? So how has the ecosystem felt the crisis?
Yeah, no, we know the food productions cannot stop during the crisis. I think that sure. We are a little bit different about other sectors. At the beginning of the crisis, okay, we had some negative impact, some partners postponed the negotiation, But in general, the impacts have been positive. In a way, the crisis shows even more the necessity that we need for innovation. And everyone is more receptive to digital technologies. In ag, we have long distances involved, and now virtual meetings and discussions are more common for the entrepreneurs to validate, to be close to the farmers. And the farmers now is more open to talk and to accept the onboard of new products in a virtual mode. It has a great impact for the scale phase of the startups. Some are, in the case of the hub, our initiatives, we have engaged more people. We have the farmers more engaged in our initiatives in a virtual mode. It's very important because we know the farmer-centric innovations is essential for the process. Then in general, we see more positive impacts than negative impacts.
Excellent. Okay. So still on the topic of how Brazilian entrepreneurs are equipped to dealing with adversity and particularly how resilient they are in times like this. I'd like to hear from Maite on how the Black startup founders have been responding to the crisis.
Yes, this moment is so crazy because the startups can do something and support the population and give money, but the ecosystem don't have the same traction in this moment. Then the companies and the small business don't pay the startups to do the then works. Then for us is a difficult moment because the startups can do then works, but the ecosystem and the mercado and the don't attraction these companies. For us, it's a great moment because it's an opportunity to create a new innovations. Then we looking for this. We're looking for the startups create a new things that help the people, help the society. Then for us, it's a great moment, but it's difficult because we don't have money to pay these startups.
Right, right. So have you found that the whole debate around Black Lives Matter and all the visibility that that Black founders and professionals in general have been getting in the media, has that been helpful to you in any way?
Yes, I think it's a bad thing, happen. I forgot the name of this the people
The
died.
incident, the actual death of Floyd.
But yes, the Floyd. But it's a great moment to discuss about the difference between Black people and other populations. It's a great moment to do introductions, this information in companies or in school and other things. Then for us is a opportunity to open my minds and give more information. The difference in COVID-19 is open this discussing about the difference between the society. Then for us is a great moment for do this.
Excellent. Okay. So, Pedro, you have been in touch with so many startup founders over the years, and now you said you're still very bullish about the the Brazilian ecosystem and what's yet to come. So what is your perception in terms of how founders are responding to the current circumstances?
Well, it varies depending on the sector they're in. I mean, the startups that are most affected are the ones that usually are from tourism, entertainment, events, and the such. So these guys are pretty much stopped or like 80–70% down. But we also have startups that are really surfing the digital landscape, the ones that enable e-commerce, that enable online communications, that allow that help logistics. These guys are really growing. We are seeing like 5 to 10-fold increase on some of these guys in terms of revenue. So, and you have these guys in the middle who are somewhat affected. Some of them are growing a little, some of them are not growing, but we have this distribution right now. And what we're starting to see is that the ones that are most affected are starting to have some revenue right now. So
Right.
we see an improvement on the worst cases as well.
Excellent. And have you found that these guys, particularly the ones that are somewhere in between that you just described, have they been able to pivot quite easily? How have these processes been?
Well, they had to be creative. I mean, the smaller ones, the ones that are smaller teams, that I think they are, since they didn't have a very large base of customers, they were able to pivot really quick and really adapt. The ones that were really hit the most, the ones who had like really relevant revenues and customers, so they had to at the same time listen to the customers and see what they're going through and adapting their offer and coming up with new ways of I mean getting money in, you know, yeah, and some of them were really in the middle of fundraising efforts, and even though most of them were able to continue and finish their fundraising, their fund raises, some of them who started out right at the beginning had more difficulty and are starting now to have VCs picking up the phones again and starting to talk to them about investments.
All right. Okay. That's interesting. All right. So now on to good things. Now I like to talk about the changes in the marketplace that have been introduced by the pandemic and how startups are responding to it. And I don't want to position this as silver linings at all. After all, Brazil has the world's second highest death toll of this pandemic after the United States, with over 105,000 lives lost. So I don't want to paint this as silver linings, but it is inevitable that new ideas will arise as a result of the changes forced by COVID. So Tomé, how do you see that unfolding? How do you see new opportunities coming on stream for the startups that you're in touch with?
Yeah, from the opportunities, from the point of view of the entrepreneurs, I think that in ag, as a huge market in Brazil, the maturity of the ecosystem is fantastic. It's really a very nice opportunity. We start to see entrepreneurs that succeed in other sectors, and now they are thinking about the next startup, what they will create next, and they start to choose the ag sector as the sector to create the new startup. And when they come, they will face a lot of opportunities and support. Then you can create solutions connected with big corporates. We start to see VC funds start to try to deep understand and invest more in this sector. Also, the farmers are entrepreneur by nature, and they also are interested to invest in startup. From the point of view of the corporates, it's interesting because the ecosystem, we say that still in the infancy, but growing fast. It's still time to orchestrate the ecosystem. If you are a company, you can engage, encourage the entrepreneur to get involved in your sector, to create solutions for your pain points, and let him know that you are the partner of choice. I think it's a great opportunity for corporates and for entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. And how do you see that unfolding, Rosenildo? Do you find that the changes in the marketplace that are being forced by this current situation are presenting new opportunities for the founders that you work with?
So I don't like to put a pandemic being together with opportunity, but I get your question in a way that we have to cope with this situation and do things, because we have a job to do. And what we have seen in Salvador in this environmental that Vale do Dende is part of is the innovative ideas putting on the table. Some companies are change their business, going to digital more and more to cope with this challenge, to help people. The great challenge is to place your company in the way to cope with this challenge. We as a accelerator, we are part of the Todos coalition, which is about 6 NGO and social companies, and we managed to launch a fund, Todos Fund, for our funding that gets raised in the market from donors 1 million reais, something like $250,000, to lend, to give to the entrepreneurs to start from some points. Apart from that, a lot of the entrepreneurs on our base, they went to the digital, and they are seeing more and more that business as usual no more. They have to reinvent the business. They have, and they are doing this by now. We are supporting them to look the market and seize all opportunities, not local opportunities, but state opportunities and the global opportunities. I think that we are seeing that this crisis was a shaking crisis that put a lot of pressure, and the Brazilian entrepreneurs are coping with and give a strong response for that.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting, and worth mentioning that the Brazilian entrepreneurs that Rosenildo deals with, they don't start a new business because they feel like it, but because they have no other choice. So it's very important the work that Vale do Dende is doing with Todos, the fund that will provide a lifeline that may be what determines the future of these small businesses. So from an investor standpoint, I'd like to hear from Pedro, what are the reasons why the international public should be interested in what happens here? Because we've seen over the years that business magazine cover with the Christ the Redeemer taking off. Then we saw another cover with it forced landing, and now we have a current situation that is at the very least concerning from a socio-economic standpoint. So why should international investors in particular be tuning to what's happening in Brazil?
Well, that's a great question. We aren't quite good at international PR, right? I think the defense that I would use is pretty simple. If you take the American market and the stock market, and you see the greatest valuations right now, the companies that are really growing, they're really booming, and this both NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange, it's tech. So tech is like almost more than 25% of all the value that there's there. If you take the same kind of criteria to Brazil, you see the tech is not even close the top performers. And at the same time, we're seeing a trend that companies, some traditional companies, are really reinventing themselves with technology and digital, and are really growing, like MagaLu and XP and XP Investments and Stone. These guys are really growing above market. And if you see, Mercado Livre just got to the #1 position as the most valued company in Latin America last week. And this is only the beginning, I think. If you see everything that we as consumers are doing day to day, the amount of technology we are consuming, from Netflix to iFood, from Happy, and all those players, they're really growing, and we don't see it yet on the size of the companies that are in this market, but we'll definitely see it. We are starting to see in the fintech market, such as Nubank, which is probably one of the largest fintech companies in the world. But we have space for several more huge technology companies to emerge in Brazil. So that's my bull mark. We'll keep investing and helping these entrepreneurs just to thrive here locally, because there's a huge value to be captured.
Yes, yes, indeed. And worth mentioning as well, for those who are not particularly close to the detail of the Brazilian tech startup ecosystem, up until 3 years ago, we didn't have a single unicorn. So now we have about a dozen. So that is the testament to the potential of this market. So still on that point of international investment, Tomé, you have multinationals investing in your hub, and among your key partners, there's the Moroccan government, for example. So tell us a little bit about the international interest in Brazil, particularly in your sector, in agri-technology.
Yeah, a lot of opportunities. As everybody knows, agribusiness is a relevant sector in Brazil. We have a large domestic market and we're one of the largest exporters. And we are at the beginning of this digital transformation. A lot of things to do, many opportunities. And at the same time, we start to see more prepared entrepreneurs, the ecosystems more mature. And we see some important trends, robotics, integrations, how the technology can be integrated, because the farmer will not see one solution, one screen, another solution on the screen. Nobody talks with one another. The integration is a trend. But fintechs, as also Pedro comment, fintechs with solutions in ag that we call ag fintechs are getting a lot of attention nowadays. A large and undeserved market, medium farmers with limited access to credit and still high dependent on it to operate. Then fintechs in ag, as there are a lot of opportunities for this to invest in this kind of startups.
Excellent. Okay, so you've mentioned a few of the trends that are in the horizon for ag in the next few months. So I'll take that opportunity to finalize our debate by asking the other participants to mention the trends that the international ecosystem should keep an eye on when it comes to Brazil. Maite, what should the international community observe when it comes to Brazil and its entrepreneurship and technology ecosystem?
Sorry. For us, is a good moment to change the people are entrepreneurs. For example, the Black entrepreneurs and the Black woman entrepreneurs, for example, we don't see this person in a great position in the big company, for example. But these women can do a great work and a great job, or create a great startups. For us, is a moment to see these people to leader startups. And I think it's a great moment to see this Black population to leadership, SaaS and fintechs and ER, VR, for example. For us is a great moment to see this. We looking for the Black entrepreneurs, and we can show this population to be a unicorn, for example, one day. Then for a provocation now to change the mind, to have other people in the table too.
Sure. And if you consider that Black people are the majority of the Brazilian population, and that diversity means more profits, then Brazil is a place investors should be looking at, for sure. Thanks, Maite. And what about you, Rosenildo? What are the key trends that you see coming up that the international community should be looking at when it comes to Brazil? Just said.
Sorry.
You got it.
when you look to the all countries, you see when you see the population in the areas and the natural resources, you can see United States, you can see Russia, you can see China, you can see India, you can see Indonesia and Brazil. Brazil accounts for a large population, a large resources, large areas for agriculture, for mining, for enlarged, and a very good infrastructure, and the opportunity to do more in all these aspects. There is no one country in the world by now. Note that here we have a lot of problems concerning by violence, concerning by political disputes, a lot of that, but it's manageable. They are manageable. It's not like other countries. I wouldn't like to cite names. I prefer to be more polite and stress what Brazil has an advantage. And to invest here is certain that you have a great market to develop. As Maite has said, there is a large number of Brazilians that are out of the consumer market by now. And only integrating this part of these people, you account about one Argentina and one Paraguay and one Uruguay together. If you put them in the market, not all of them, a part of them, half of them. So we are talking about opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. And to finish the comment, but they have to come to Brazil with another mind, with another mindset, to stay part of the community, to not only to invest, but to stay here, to be part of our success. Okay? That is
exactly. Exactly. Yes, indeed. Brazil is not for the for beginners, but you have to start somewhere. So
yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. So Pedro, just to finish this off, I'm really interested in your comments on the opportunities for international investment in Brazil. We've seen companies come and go. As Rosenildo said, not all of them have stuck with Brazil over the years. So we need a little bit more resilience and a different mindset. Do you agree with that? And also, what are the opportunities at the moment for international investments here?
Well, the international investors are, of course, afraid of the things that they don't know, and it's pretty hard to know exactly what's going on in Brazil. When you see all those news abroad, it's very tough to get a clear picture of what is really going on here. So instead of investing in Brazil, I could invest in a 50 mile radius from my home and pretty much control the investment I'm making. So in order to present a clear case of investment to these foreign investors, I think what we need is success stories and really international investors that have been able to have good to great returns here, investing in Brazilian companies. On the VC side, since these guys tend to look in the real long term, 10 years, 8 years plus, I think these guys are still looking at Brazil with different eyes. And I think foreign investors with the pandemic, they're starting to see that they can follow up on their investments from their homes, and they don't need to travel and really be physically close to the investment. So I think it opens up opportunities as well for foreign money to pour into Brazil. Another on the other side, the new Cold War between US and China perhaps puts us in a interesting situation where we can attract both capital from the US market and the Chinese market that will fight for assets outside US. So perhaps that's good news for us in terms of investment.
That's really interesting, very interesting points. So worth keeping an eye on Brazil in the months to come. We could be talking about this for a lot longer, but unfortunately we will need to bring this, this first part of the debate to a close. I'd like to thank all of you, Tomé, Maite, Rosenildo, and Pedro, for your company, for your insights. It's been a really interesting chat, a pleasure to be with all of you, and great to see you all thrive despite the circumstances. It's been really fascinating to hear from you, and interesting nonetheless to be talking to all of you in English. It's been fun when I normally talk to you in Portuguese. So thank you so much again. Thanks to BAYBRAZIL for the invitation. And I'll hand over to Margarese, and would like to thank her again and the BAYBRAZIL team for the invitation again. It's been an honor.
Well, thank you so much. Muito obrigada. All of you are doing a very instrumental and relevant work, helping the Brazilian ecosystem to thrive. I wish you, each one of you, much success. Obrigada. Obrigada. Angelica, thank you so much for moderating this discussion. You did an awesome job, and I hope to see you back soon.
We'll see you again soon, Margarese.
Obrigada.
Obrigada. Ciao, ciao.
Obrigada.
Ciao, ciao.
And for those joining us now, we just finished our discussion with the leaders of Brazilian accelerators, and we are now going to move back here to the region in Silicon Valley and San Francisco. And I would love to welcome for this other part of our conversation, the leaders of two prominent accelerators here in the region. Here they are. Welcome, Caroline Winnett. She's the Executive Director of Berkeley Skydeck. Thanks, Carolina, for joining us.
Happy to be here.
And Alec Wright, Chief Innovation Officer of GSVLabs, joining us from San Francisco. Obrigada, Alex.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great, great. So I would love for each one of you to introduce yourselves and tell us how you are leading each one of your organizations, starting with Caroline. Actually, Caroline or Caroline?
Caroline, yes.
Caroline, oh, I'm
Caroline.
sorry.
No problem.
All right, Caroline, please give us a sense of what it is Skydeck, why and how it was founded, and a little bit of your work here there.
Sure. Skydeck is UC Berkeley's startup accelerator and incubator. We are a campus program. We're quite a large program. We have at any given time about 125 startups and residents. And we accelerate, we also incubate, and with the acceleration track, we take about 20 companies both from Berkeley or from any UC campus or from outside the US. So always happy to meet Brazilian entrepreneurs. And they come to our program for 6 months and they receive intensive mentorship, guidance, access to the huge network of Berkeley, and investment by our dedicated venture fund.
Great, thanks, Caroline. Alec, tell us about the GSV, how long you've been involved, and what it's been GSV's role in everything that is going on here in the region right now.
Again, thanks for having me. It's great to get to chat with everyone of it today, and great to get an opportunity to meet you, Carolyn, and you know, have a conversation. You know, I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at GSVLabs. I've been with the company for about 6 years, and have gone through several different kind of iterations of our journey, from a co-working space to an incubator and accelerator. And then now, you know, I'd say our largest focus is actually providing technology platforms to other accelerators, startup ecosystems to help them manage and scale their communities. And so at GSVLabs, we have physical innovation centers in Silicon Valley and Boston that, you know, in non-COVID times typically house about 150 plus seed to Series B technology teams. We have a new site in Pittsburgh opening in March with a bunch of wonderful partners there. And then we have acceleration programs that we typically run with partners. We've designed accelerators for Intel and folks like AT&T and Fidelity, and then run landing programs for startups from all over the world, and most commonly from South Korea, Mexico, at times Malaysia, Russia, and you know, kind of various boot camp programs. And so a lot of different kind of flexible modular acceleration programs with early stage companies.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So we are in the midst of a global pandemic, and we know how early stage startups have been highly impacted. Not only early stage, other mid-sized companies as well have been impacted, and overall businesses are having to reinventing and working in this new reality. So while some sectors such as e-commerce, cloud, health are thriving, others are facing enormous challenge and even laying off and restructuring. So Caroline, give us a sense what's going on with your batch of startups. How are they doing? How are they dealing with this current pandemic?
So not surprisingly, there's like a bell curve, right? So a small number of them of startups, and this is reflective of all startups, have to close, right? There's startups in every industry that just their customers just dried up. And then on the other side of the tail, there are startups who are thriving because of COVID. All of a sudden, there's a huge demand, you know, delivery services, remote work, cloud-based infrastructure, particularly health applications that all of a sudden are booming. But sort of in the middle, in the big bell curve, there's a lot of companies that are just, you know, hitting some sticky paths here and there. They're doing okay. They're pivoting a bit. So in our particular community, our current batch, fortunately, is doing quite well. I think it helps that they have a very supportive network. You know, in times of trouble, it's all about the network. It's all about the network anyway, right? But especially now, you know, they're really leaning on their networks for support. I will say that, you know, overall, the valuations are down for startup investment. The number of checks being written is a bit down, but not, you know, not tanked the spigot has not been turned off. It's just slowed a bit. But there's only a couple of, you know, handful of companies here and there in our program who just hit a wall and had to close. So fortunately, they're still doing all right.
Alec.
Yeah, I would echo very similar sentiments. I've been very impressed by how proactive most of the early stage founders were in our ecosystem. I think one of the benefits of how incredibly kind of tragic and disruptive that COVID was that it was immediately clear to founders that they had to make rapid changes. And you know, it caused really quick thinking and decision making that I think has caused a lot of companies to stay in the center of that bell curve and kind of figure out how to give themselves you know, additional runway and kind of create some space for them to hopefully weather the crisis, or at least reorient how they're approaching the market. So I had a very similar experience where I expected a lot more companies to, you know, within the first 90 days of this, just, you know, go to zero and not be able to sustain themselves. I think a lot more than I'd expected were able to make fast decisions, cut costs. You know, sometimes that did mean very hard decisions about laying off team members and things like that, but they were kind of made rapidly and thoughtfully, and that, in my experience, that bought a lot of companies some space to operate and figure things out. And so it's been difficult, but I think the real bright news is if you look at how people were talking in late March and April and early May about 50% plus plummets in funding, you know, valuations being cut, you know, 75%, and like a complete reset of the early stage capital markets, that hasn't happened. You know, good companies are still getting funded. Companies that are pivoting and working are getting major valuation pressure, but it's been shocking how much capital is still in the market. And when you talk to a lot of VCs, not only do they kind of say business as usual, I've heard a lot of people say, well, it actually feels a little bit like a frenzy as people are trying to figure out where the new landscape of opportunities are.
You just got into my next question, actually. What is the mood that you are seeing, Alec, with the VCs and angel investors that you work with in terms of willingness to invest in early stage startup?
You know, I would just say, please, Carolyn.
Oh, I was just going to echo what you said. They're all looking for the next Uber. Everybody knows that Uber and Airbnb, you know, all started in the last giant economic tank. So, yeah.
And what does it mean, Caroline? Are they more willing to open their wallets to the early stages that you are in touch with?
I'd say sort of overall the interest hasn't declined or increased. It sort of has a different slant to it. Right? I mean, people are, I think, being more open and looking at things that don't have a playbook, or, you know, investors are huge pattern matching people. So, oh, I've seen this animal before, I get this animal. I think they're a little bit more open-minded, as are we. You know, as we look for our next cohort, we're in the middle of application review. We have very open minds about what could be a solution that didn't have a market before, that didn't have a scalable path, that now does. And, you know, we want to catch it when it's early.
How about your sense on this, Alec?
Yeah, I mean, again, I love the Uber example, because I think if you think about Uber starting or Lyft starting in an economic boom time, the supply side on drivers would have been impossible. But because of the kind of economic disruption that was happening, all of a sudden it created space for these big businesses to be built. And I think, you know, to Carolyn's point, everyone's really trying to figure out, well, with the disruption of retail and with the disruption of, you know, food and beverage and healthcare, where are these new possibilities? When it comes to practically how checks are getting written, you know, I would say, I think angel investors are a little bit harder right now, especially kind of those smaller angels that, you know, the state of the economy is heavily dependent upon, you know, drives their risk aversion. And I think there certainly is a community of angel investors that there's just too much uncertainty, that they're not investing as much and they're not kind of as open with their wallet. I think on the VC side, you know, as we're all saying, people are still very willing to invest. And I think it's very fortunate that at the start of this crisis, there had never been a time in the history of the world or of the venture capital industry where there was more, dry powder or capital sitting inside of these funds that, need to go somewhere. I can tell you one thing, the VCs aren't giving the money back to the LPs. They're going to invest it. And so, people are still very willing. And fortunately, while it caused a very brief pause, there was definitely like a 30-day period where getting a round done was more or less impossible. But it very quickly kind of got back to more normal interactions.
And keeping on you, Alec, how do you tell us what is the dynamic now of how startup founders and investors are meeting? So there were a lot of, obviously we are here in a region that there were a lot of events and pitch sessions all over the region. So that stopped completely now. So what has been the dynamics now?
I think there are two key things you touched on there. One is like the event ecosystem and community. That's been hard. Like that is hard to recreate online. That's hard to go virtual. Everyone's trying. I know we're trying. We run monthly pitch nights. We've built a new virtual events platform so that people can vote on pitches, they can chat, they can request introductions to startups, because we're trying to figure out how we simulate that networking experience and that social experience that, so many of us love about and get value out of kind of the startup ecosystem. That's a really hard one, but people sure are trying. On the investor meeting side, I think a lot of VCs have had to very rapidly get comfortable with investing in founders that they haven't been able to take out to dinner and, hang out with and develop that personal comfort that has driven a lot of VC, relationships in the past. In many ways, I think that can be a good thing. I think it drives to more diverse funding. And I think, people seem to have been more willing to just jump on a 30-minute call or a 20-minute call with someone to like meet a potential fund, investment, as opposed to saying you need to block out an hour and come to the, to the firm office and on Sand Hill Road or in the city. And so I do think people are meeting much more easily, and it's a little addicting. Like I'm not looking forward to 6-10 international trips when this goes back to normal. I love the fact that so many of our meetings are happening effectively online.
Would love your comment on that too, Caroline. What is the dynamics that you are seeing now at Skydeck and other networks that you are in touch with?
So we're in the middle of a giant, massive, and forced and that we did not volunteer for social experiment. And honestly, we're going to find out. As Alex said, a lot of stuff just is not the same, right? You're not standing human to human and chatting with each other and sharing a beer or whatever. But there's a lot of things that have been enabled by this. So we have we have lots of matching events between our advisors and our founders. 50% more engagement, right? Because the advisors don't have to drive to Skydeck and brave the demons of traffic of the Bay Area. They're like, oh, click, I'm there. Internship matching, hundreds and hundreds of students are piling onto our intern matching events. Getting faculty, can I have a few minutes of your time? Sure, right? So there's sort of an enablement of socializing is one thing. The other interesting thing is that, Zoom is kind of an equalizing platform. So Alec, you might be 6'5". I don't know, right? But we're the same height here on Zoom, and all these things are really fascinating to me. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but it's now to the point everyone's just sort of wearing, this is my cycling jacket. Like I used to wear, a nice button down shirt. I like my nice crisp blazers. We've all given that up, right?
You just mentioned something very new to me. So you think the height affects in the decision of an investor, the height of the founder?
Of course it is. Everybody has unconscious bias. Everybody, both men and women, you know, we try as we might. It's hardwired in the brain. So this is all fascinating to me. And then, you know, I think, you know, we're in the same sort of adoption phase as every investor, which is, how could we admit a founder without admitting to the program? And now I'm like, fine. I mean, we hired someone to a full-time staff who I've never met in person. Going great. So, but what I will say, and this is really important, you know, it's all about the network when there's no COVID, but now, you know, you've got to tap into an existing network, because you can't go, it's really hard to build your own. You can't go to events, you can't go to meetups, you can't hand out your business card or you know, exchange your LinkedIn. So tap into a powerful existing network, which we have, and our network has been growing. I've developed new relationships with people I've never met because of the power of our network. So it's really important for founders nowadays to do that.
Alec, you were going to say.
You know, I was just going to say, you know, to your point, it's just been, you know, as much as there have been plenty of depressing things to watch throughout all of this and kind of humanity, it has been so, in my mind, just exciting to see how adaptable people are, and watch how something that was unbelievable and you would have been laughed out of the room for suggesting, you know, 3 months ago has become, you know, second nature. And, you know, we've, you know, one part of our business is growing a lot, and we've been hiring a lot of engineers. And I think we've hired 4 or 5 people now remotely. And just the notion of doing that at the beginning of the year would have been unbelievable. And now I think some of those habits aren't going to go away just because, you know, things open back up. I think this has created space for hopefully some of that level playing field to, you know, kind of persist.
Yeah, definitely a new reality for all of us, and for BAYBRAZIL too. Usually we have this annual conference, is a one-day event that has been attracting over 300 people every year here in the Bay Area from Brazil and many regions in the US. For us, is the first time putting this conference online. So, and we are spreading through a 3-month program. So the silver lining is that more people are accessing at these conversations. And so we are very happy about that. Now, in talking again about Brazil and the diverse region that we live in, right? So we live here in the Bay Area in one of the most diverse tech communities in the world. Please give us a sense of what is your accelerators community. Where do your founders mostly come from, Caroline?
So all over. So our accelerator track accepts founders who are either affiliated with the Berkeley campus or with any of the 10 University of California campuses, or they can be founders who are located outside the US who want to come and launch their businesses here in the US, although via Zoom at the moment. So about half of our accelerator track are companies that are located outside the US. So we have in our current batch, South America, Europe, Russia, India, UK, just about everywhere, Asia. And we haven't had a Brazilian company yet though. So all you Brazilian founders, please check out Skydeck. We've had some in our incubator track. We've had several Brazilian companies with Brazilian founders. But we're looking for a Brazilian company to come and join our accelerator track.
How can they apply, Caroline?
So applications are just officially closed. But if you go to our website and click on apply, it's possible you might be able to still get an application in there, even though it's officially closed. We're still wrapping up. and that cohort begins in October. And then we open the applications every 6 months. What we're looking for are companies in any industry. We take everything from life science, hardware, software, consumer, you name it. And we're looking for a company that has some proof or evidence that the company is ready to grow. So a company, the best way to think about it is my company ready to receive $100,000 in venture funding, and then spend the next 6 months developing to get me to a point where I could raise a seed round from professional investors at that 6 months. So it's a very different situation if you're a life science company versus you know, a consumer app. We're going to look for a lot more traction in the latter. In the former, we're going to look for very solid data that you have a scientific discovery that has a good market application.
Well, I think you're going to get an application from Henrique Mascarenhas. He just sent you a comment from Brazil. He's a founder, just starting a new startup. All right, Henrique, maybe we'll see you here in the Bay Area at some point. Alec, please give us a sense of the GSVLabs community, where your founders come from.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it really depends on what part of the GSVLabs community you're talking about or you're interested in. You know, we have our physical innovation centers in Silicon Valley and in Boston. You know, I would say the majority of those companies or you know, that are in those spaces are kind of homegrown from around their respective markets. However, especially in Silicon Valley, about 40% of our resident startups were founded outside of the US. So, you know, a lot of companies, as they kind of get to that seed Series A point, you know, maybe in Brazil or in Mexico or in Korea, they decide they want to, you know, relocate all of the team or part of the team to the United States. And we've found to be a strong landing pad for those types of companies. If you look at our online platform and our online community, so we have GSV Passport, over 25,000 entrepreneurs from around the world are members of that platform. Excuse me. My apologies. The vast majority of those members are from outside the United States. And Brazil actually is our fourth or fifth largest market of members for the Passport platform. And what we've found is we've taken as much of our resources that you access in our innovation centers, like our mentor network, our investor network, all of our curriculum and content, and our perks program, which offers a lot of discounts and kind of free tools to startups. And we put those online. And while that's something that if you're a founder in Silicon Valley, you're a little spoiled, and there are a lot of different places you can access these type of resources, what we have found is that founders in emerging innovation markets globally don't have as easy access to those resources and have really found value in kind of quickly tapping into what we've been able to create in the Valley here over the past couple of years.
And how can they apply to join GSV?
Oh, just go to GSVLabs.com. Passport is a freemium community. Anyone can join for free, and you can access all of our learning content, our curriculum, our best practices, tools and templates, and anything like that. You can see all of our community forums and discussions. And then if you want to access any of the resources that have scarcity, like our mentor network and investor network and perks program, there's an annual membership. So check out Passport.
Well, talking now about the partnerships, right? I believe you both partner with large corporations and universities. Of course, Skydeck is linked to a major university here in the region. So give us a sense, Caroline, please, how these partnerships work. What is the dynamics that goes between you introduce founders or leaders in the Skydeck to the partners of Skydeck, as well as maybe having a talent from UC Berkeley to join these startups?
Yeah, actually, we do have a founder who is Brazilian. The company is formed here, but he is a Brazilian founder. He's a faculty at UC Berkeley, Professor Rodrigo Almeida. So we do have a Brazilian founder in our cohort, which is great.
Wonderful, and thank you so much for introducing me to Rodrigo. I look forward to talking with him.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's absolutely brilliant. He's a world-leading expert in plant pathology, and we're really lucky to have him and his amazing discovery in our program. So as a Berkeley program, you know, there's no separation between us and Berkeley. We're actually a campus unit, which is really great. So that really makes us part of Berkeley. And, you know, our mission is to support entrepreneurship at Berkeley and to bring entrepreneurs from around the world to our thriving hub, the same way the campus searches the whole world for talent, for academic talent. We search the whole world for entrepreneur talent. And when they come, they're either from outside the US or they're from one of our 10 campuses. We have several ways that we connect them with Berkeley talent. We have matching programs for student interns. There's a lot of different types of student talent on campus. There's MBAs, there's engineers, there's biology, et cetera, et cetera. We also have a formal faculty advisor program where we connect experts in various fields with our startups who are looking for the world's leading experts on, you know, you name it at Berkeley, we have it. And then many of the startups that come are looking for labs. They're looking for equipment. Maybe they need a nanofabrication lab. Maybe they need a life science lab. Maybe they need a supercomputer. Whatever that is, we probably have it on campus or at the Lawrence Berkeley Lab, which is of course just up the hill from us. And then the most powerful thing we have is the Berkeley Alumni Network. There's over 500,000 living Berkeley alums around the world. And when we call them up and say, hey, we have a startup in our program that would like to chat with you for a few minutes. And by the way, if they succeed, Berkeley will benefit financially via our profit. We share profit with our fund. Will you help them? That's almost always a yes, because the Berkeley alum can support Berkeley with an hour of their time. And they're very, very happy to do that.
Amazing, Caroline. How about you, Alec? What is that dynamic? I know you work with a lot of universities, large corporations, promoting potential partnerships. Give us a sense of how does that work?
Yeah, I'll certainly leave it to Carolyn on the relationship between universities and their entrepreneurship programs, because Skydeck really is you know, a premier model. And to echo her point, you know, I have two colleagues that are Berkeley alums. Both of them over the past couple of years have mentored in the Skydeck program, and yeah, like Skydeck's done an amazing job of keeping their community that go on to do interesting things in venture capital or in entrepreneurship or any area kind of engaged in the network. I think what we really spend a lot more time with is we work with universities that have created a physical entrepreneurship community and typically powered by, you know, as Carolyn said, meetup events and in-person mentoring and, you know, all the kind of activity that brings this community together. And we are a technology partner that helps provide platforms and tools for them to put those communities online. So we work with folks like University College London and University of North Texas and Tec de Monterrey in Mexico, to provide online communities, you know, that are owned by them for all their student entrepreneurs. And you know, our mantra is to just take and, you know, empower the incredible ecosystem they've built and give them the technology to scale it and make it more automated, because you know, they you know, a lot of these organizations have just built exceptional programs. We can just kind of help on the tech side. On the enterprise side, I think we could talk about that for hours. We do a lot of work with Fortune 500s that are trying to identify and work with emerging technology startups. I would say that it's very hard. You know, it is not a glamorous kind of job or a glamorous position, because making a 40,000 person company work effectively with 4, you know, founders in a garage is not, it's kind of like oil and water. It's not the most natural thing. And so I think folks like ourselves, I certainly imagine at times folks like Skydeck really try and connect the dots and make it easy for, you know, the right people inside enterprise to identify the right startups and kind of be a trusted bridge between the two, so that both sides are able to get to productive relationships faster rather than be overwhelmingly transactional. And it's still going to be transactional, but I think organizations that are kind of trusted and known on both sides can just be very powerful bridge, you know, a very powerful bridge kind of between the early stage ecosystem and, you know, these large, you know, transnational companies that naturally do not necessarily kind of interact well.
To wrap up this conversation, I would love to get you both to give a message, what is your message to young entrepreneurs across the globe that are right now struggling, or that are right now excited to start their enterprises in a very challenging period of humanity? Caroline, starting with you, I know that Skydeck had very successful exits. Some companies are operating in other countries. Give us, if you can tell us a little bit about these cases, how do they get there? And what is your message for the young founders out there?
My message for the young founders is bring it on, because you're going to fix the world. Come on down, bring your ideas. We've had a bit of a glitch in the operating system here that's been created. So yeah, I'm very excited that the new generation of young companies, not necessarily young founders, right? Young companies with new, fresh ideas will come and solve these problems that we have. In terms of advice, I'll say something that's been said a million times, and it can never be said too many times. Just ask. Just reach out and ask for help in a authentic, humble, friendly, and specific way. And it is amazing what people will do. People want to help. That's our nature. People who are very, very busy and very, very accomplished also want to help. Give them something very specific. Give them a quick ask. I need 15 minutes of your time to ask you about this specific thing, right? I would love your help. Reach into your networks. What school did you go to? What clubs did you belong to? What church do you go to? What something that is a network for you, and find people in that network and reach out to them. LinkedIn is the grand gathering place of all humans. And you can sort by a whole bunch of stuff on there and find people and reach out. I always look at my LinkedIn. I get a ton of messages. I try to answer all of them. I don't always get to them, but I really do try. And the ones that I respond to, most are the ones that are very specific, right? Like, this is exactly what I'd like to know or learn from you. I try, and that's easier to respond to. So just ask people. I think there's a great Steve Jobs video on this somewhere where he's like saying the same thing.
Alec.
Yeah, certainly have to echo that. You just be blown away at how many people are willing to give you their time if you make a thoughtful ask. I think especially it's there are tons of things that Silicon Valley does very badly, and like diversity is one of them, and community-driven activity is often one of them. A willingness to pay it forward to other entrepreneurs and people who are trying to do things is one of the things that the kind of innovation ecosystem has done an amazing job at, and I think has exported to other innovation, ecosystems. And I think there is a culture of that in the startup community. So, I ask, it's so true. I think the only other thing on my side is there's never been a better time to be a startup and like be a founder. This is, and COVID is putting, creating incredible difficulty and tragedy for so many people. As was said earlier, often big businesses get created in these times of disruption and dislocation. But I think the thing that you have to keep in mind is, with the state of low code technology and the tools and platforms being built today, you can launch a product in weeks. You can get it into consumers' hands days after that. You can test, you can get traction. And so my one piece of advice for founders is just like, go and do it. And, stop planning and just go and start talking to users, talking to customers, putting things in people's hands, and or in their virtual hands, right now. And you'll just be blown away at how quickly you learn and start making progress. Perfect really is the enemy of done.
Very inspirational advice. Thank you so much. Caroline Winnett, Executive Director of Berkeley Skydeck, Alec Wright, Innovation Officer at GSVLabs. I appreciate your time and all the information and the additional inspiration that you are giving to all of us. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun. Nice to meet you, Alec. Hopefully
it's been a real pleasure, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Yes, no, certainly.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks again, Margaret.
Thank you, guys. And thank you all of you who join us both here at Zoom and on Facebook. Our annual conference program resumes again next week. We are having a discussion on sustainability and the future of food. You don't want to miss that. That's next Thursday. We'll see you then. Obrigada.